My name is Albert Mickelson. I was a part of the Michelson-Morley experiment. This experiment it tried to detect the presence of ether. We believe that ether was a medium through which light traveled because we thought that light had to have a medium to travel through because of its wave-like properties. In order to detect the presence of ether, we directed two beams of light in opposite directions. One was moving with ether, one was to move against it. And if the ether existed, we should have seen a difference in the speed of the two beams of light. The light moving with the ether probably should have been a little bit faster than the beam of light moving against the ether. However, when we got the results, there was such a small difference in the speed of the light that we weren't able to detect any ether. So our experiment failed. We conducted this experiment at the Case Western Reserve University in Cleveland, Ohio in 1887. At the time, it was two different colleges. I was a professor at the Case School of Applied Science, while my colleague was a professor at the Western Reserve College. These colleges had an adjoining campus, and they later joined together to form the Case Western Reserve University, which is still running today. In 1887, there were quite a few things going on in the world. Some key events that happened were that work on the Eiffel Tower began in 1887. The Triple Alliance between Germany, Austria-Hungary, and France ended. Edison patented the kinetoscope. There were Bloody Sunday clashes in London. And then Austria-Hungary, Italy, and Great Britain signed the Balkan Military Treaty. My main colleague for this project was a scientist by the name of Edward Morley. He was a chemist and a professor at the Western Reserve College. My main role in this project was that we tweaked some of the experiments I had done a couple years prior. I had done very similar projects about 6 years prior to our Michelson-Morley experiment, and so we just redesigned some of those experiments for what we were doing. Our project had a lot of impact on the physics community because our failure was used to confirm Fresnel and Stokes' theory of light, and then also was used to discover or to find fringe shifts. And then about 20 years after our project, it influenced Einstein's theory of special relativity. A lot of people like to claim that our experiment, the Michelson-Morley experiment, is the most famous failed experiment. And I don't necessarily agree with that because even though we didn't prove what we were hoping to in the beginning, we were still able, the fact that we weren't able to detect the presence of ether meant that we could draw the conclusion that ether didn't exist. And the fact that it was able to be the fact that we didn't prove what we were hoping to, since that was used to confirm other people's theories, it just furthered our understanding. And since it furthered understanding of light, and then since it furthered understanding of light and the fact that ether doesn't exist, I don't think it should be considered a complete failure because it proves something. And experiments aren't where they can be right or wrong. You just get different conclusions based on your results. And so it should not be considered a failure.